Welcome, everybody. This is Zeus with ZK Research, and it's week 11, and it's the end of the week, so it's time for another episode of Real Time Recorder. And I'm here with my good friend Dave.
You got to say week 11, 2021, because every year there's a week 11.
Well, yeah, but I think we didn't do this in 2020, so in 2022 we'll start that. Dave, last week was kind of a quiet week in communications. This week, not so much. We had quite a bit of news this week. I think most recently we saw Avaya announce a bunch of updates to its Spaces product, and there was a number of enhancements, including they added Spaces, integrated calling into Spaces, both digital and connectivity to PSTN. They added a number of AI capabilities as well through their partnership with NVIDIA, NVIDIA's Maxine product. And one of the things I actually like about the way NVIDIA does it with Maxine is a streaming service from the cloud. So unlike where it's built into the client or built into the device, you can actually deliver it to any device because it's actually streamed from the cloud, which makes it easy. I actually thought, though, and no offense to the product people at Avaya, the real news wasn't as much the feature updates to Spaces as it was the CPaaS backend that they've built. And they kind of quietly went about doing that. They launched their CCaaS product based on that as well. But, I talked to Simon Harrison about a week ago about this, and we were talking about the whole concept, and they brought this up in the analyst call about the composable enterprise, right? And so you think of highly agile enterprises that are now taking advantage of composable apps, low code, no code, very commonplace today in the world of business apps. Zoho, ServiceNow, Oracle, Microsoft, Salesforce, they all have composable backends, API platforms. And so what this lets Avaya do is address kind of general purpose meetings with Spaces, but then you can take that Spaces experience and build it into custom apps, or even just single purpose apps, field service apps, whatever. I know one of the examples that I was familiar with was the Ministry of IT for Egypt during the pandemic actually built a Spaces-based app that allows hearing impaired people to be able to communicate with somebody through sign language, right? So that's a pretty cool use case. And so I think, no offense again to the product people, calling in, getting those.
Oh, go ahead and offend them. They don't mind. They don't.
Yeah, I know. Well, Avaya's a long time they positioned themselves as a product company. They are trying to be a little more marketing focused now, but I do think the big news there was really the coming of age of their CPaaS product, and and I think this is going to allow them to do a lot of stuff in the future. So
it's interesting because Avaya is really living that WebRTC dream. WebRTC is like 10 years old, and it took a lot longer to arrive than we expected. But the idea of a completely browser-based experience with soft phone, with video, was the plan. And most of the major video companies started earlier. And so, Cisco WebEx has a client, Microsoft Teams has a client, Zoom has a client, and they all have various strategies for the web and the browser. But Avaya is doing it, pure WebRTC, which I really like on the desktop. And then this part that you talked about with NVIDIA and doing all their AI in the cloud, that really allows them to deliver the AI experiences to any device at the same time. And so as other companies roll out new features, first on desktop and then maybe later on mobile, Avaya is doing everything at the same time. And I think that's a pretty powerful feature. The Spaces actually, it's been a hotbed of innovation for Avaya for the past year, maybe a little longer. But it's been around, I guess it was 2016, I think it was, when they introduced it. I remember at Enterprise Connect, they were on stage and they came out and they introduced it as Zang. It was back then kind of a subsidiary. It wasn't even really that central to what Avaya was doing. And it was part of the Tel API acquisition, which they didn't really publicize, but that's how they got the CPaaS capability. And the mastermind behind that whole thing was Mo Nezarati, who came from Esna when they acquired Esna. And I think Mo was really excited about that. He saw the future being Spaces. And that future took a little while, I think a little longer than Mo wanted to wait around. So Mo ended up leaving. And then right after he leaves, Avaya goes, hey, let's figure it out. Let's make Spaces the central of our strategy. And so really just a tremendous amount of activity coming out of Spaces. They just introduced a 61-person concert view on video. No thanks, you don't need to invite me to that one, but it's a nice capability nonetheless. And speaking of innovation, Anthony Bartolo said that they are doing 4.5 patents a week. And that's a pretty big number for our space. I mean, you hear about companies like Apple doing 200 or something a week, but in our space, 4.5 patents, that's like 225 a year. That's a lot of patents. And Avaya's had a huge history. They used to have a big facility here in Colorado, and the whole lobby was filled with their patents hanging on the wall. It's just amazing the history of innovation at Avaya. So it's nice to see that. Regarding the composable experiences, I think that was a pretty interesting point. I've been using the term extensible for a while, and I have to say, when they said composable, it's like, oh, that's a better word. I like that. Although I got to warn you, I accidentally wrote compostable once, and so composable. So don't make that mistake. But I like composable. I like what it conveys. I think that's an idea, a strong premise, and of course that's built around the CPaaS angle. And I like what they said. What was the term they used? Power multiplier, something like that. Force multiplier of CPaaS, and I think that was a pretty good angle with that. So good stuff coming out of Avaya. So another story this week was Genesys acquired Bold 360. Now this is an interesting one. I think I like this. I like this acquisition. Of course, we don't know the payment details, but to kind of catch up a little bit, Bold 360, it kind of has a complex history. I think LogMeIn acquired it in 2017. And LogMeIn was kind of this weird thing. They had Bold 360, they had the GoTo story, which is the UCC story. And then they also have, of course, LastPass, which I love LastPass. But 3 different divisions that don't really have a lot to do with each other. LastPass doesn't really have an enterprise play at all, enterprise comms play at all. And at Enterprise Connect, the last, I think it was 2019 when I noticed this, LogMeIn had separate booths for Bold 360 and GoTo. So totally separate go-to-market motions. Not really quite sure why it fit there. But anyway, Bold 360 was a company out of Israel. It was called NanoRep a while back. And they were one of these live chat AI pioneers. Now, like a lot of that early AI stuff was pretty complex, a lot of customization, and I think that's kind of the nature of that gig. So lo and behold, 2021, omni-channel communications and chatbots, et cetera, have kind of moved into the contact center. That's the one division that LogMeIn didn't have. And so I could see an interest in Genesys having it or wanting it. And I could see, the current valuations that maybe it was a good time for LogMeIn to sell it. So all that makes perfect sense. The valuations on Genesys are probably pretty high too. They've got private equity behind them. So I could see all this kind of coming together. 2 key points I want to make besides the history. One is it just didn't have a lot of synergy at LogMeIn. I guess I already kind of said that. And so I think the move makes sense. The second key point is I think that the move really validates what Cisco did with IMI Mobile. They're kind of similar. They're very different, but digital omni-channel communications, really part of the contact center. Cisco felt they needed to own it. Genesys felt they needed to own it. There's other ways to solve it. You could do it, Twilio, you could do Vonage, you could do other ways of solving omni-channel, but owning that technology is really good. TalkDesk, they used to use Brand Embassy. They're currently using IMI Mobile. They're probably scratching their head wondering with Cisco owning it, if they want to use somewhere else. So there's a lot of reassurance in owning it yourself. The other thing with IMI Mobile for Cisco is that it's got the RCS capability, which is one of those technologies that might happen next year. We've been saying that for 5 or 6 years now, and also brought some strong partnership for Cisco with the Apple and Samsung and Google partnerships. So a lot of stuff going on there. But I think the move makes a lot of sense for Genesys. What do you think, Zeus?
Yeah. So first of all, I have no idea why LogMeIn even owned this company. LogMeIn is today's version of Ink2Me, if you remember what happened to them, where they were just this weird collection of internet stuff. LogMeIn is this collection of random collaboration stuff. But I think for Genesys, this fits perfectly. I actually, right before we recorded this, I had a call with Barry O'Sullivan, the GM of the group that acquired this. And we were talking about how we're moving into a world that is rapidly becoming all digital and all these digital channels. And so I think Bold 360 calls themselves digital experience management. What they really are is digital customer service. right? In which you can use these digital channels now for, better self-service tools and, for agent information and things like that. So it's an excellent addition to the Genesys portfolio. I think what's going to be fascinating is to look at how the world changes from here, because we are doing a lot of things digital first, mobile first, web first, things like that. There's a whole discipline around digital experience management. Companies are hiring digital experience officers, right? I don't know if you saw John Chambers recently made an investment in a company called Quantum Metric, which is a digital experience management company. Content Square also, plays in that place. And I think all these things, you actually did a tweet about this, how all these acronyms and stuff are all coming together. So
all in a blender.
Yeah. And I think that's the next big sort of wave of innovation outside of AI, obviously, for the contact center space is really sharpening the focus on digital. I don't think we're going to have, like with Bolt 360, they were digital only. And I don't think we'll ever have a world, at least not in the foreseeable future, where everything's digital only. You're still going to want to talk to people, from time to time. But I do think digital first is the way we're headed. And so from that perspective, I think it was a really good acquisition by Genesys.
Yeah, I think one thing we didn't point out is that Genesys and Bolt 360 had a lot of customers in common.
Yeah.
And I think that shows that there were some gaps in the Genesys digital only portfolio. The Magic Quadrant, the CCAS Magic Quadrant, they talked about the importance of digital communications, particularly during the pandemic. And so I really think that that point about the blender and everything coming together, it actually goes back to the previous topic with Avaya as well, because they're bringing CPaaS and contact center and UCaaS all together. And so all these distinctions are blurring. And so absolutely, digital communications need to be part of the contact center, also need to be able to stand alone too.
Yeah, so, and if you when you disaggregate them, you do cause a lot of customer confusion, because if I'm doing something on the website and then I call into a contact center, often the agent has no idea what you're talking about, right? And that creates a lot of embarrassing situations. So this is good. In fact, this is something I'm sure we're going to talk more about in future real-time recorded. So
the last topic we'll cover in this episode of Real-Time Recorded is the lawsuit between RingCentral and Zoom. I've been getting a few inquiries about this, and bottom line is, don't get wrapped up in this. This is not a sporting event where you get to root for your team. Bottom line is, it's not a matter of who's better or who you like more. It's a matter of what's written in some contract that we haven't seen. And obviously, people who are trained experts in reading contracts can't seem to come to an agreement. So it's going to go to a trial. And so that's just going to play itself out. It doesn't appear that this is particularly relevant to bottom line for RingCentral. I saw one of the stock advisors put out a note, and they'd done enough due diligence to figure out that they didn't think that the Zoom aspect of RingCentral's partnerships with Avaya, Alcatel-Lucent, and Atos were that significant. I believe all those partners are using RCV or RingCentral Video with that partnership. So it's not even that relevant to the ticker symbol. It's not that relevant to really anything. And so it'll be interesting to watch this play out. I will point out, I mentioned this with the Avaya one earlier, that actually RingCentral and Avaya probably, I don't know who's who here, but have the newest enterprise video solutions in the industry right now. They're both completely web-based, WebRTC-based. That I would consider that's the future of where we want to be in video. And so I think that they both have an advantage in that sense, that they're both state-of-the-art and completely web-based. I also point out that this type of conflict is pretty typical in our industry. It's a shame. But if you think about, RingCentral and Zoom have a very long history of a successful partnership. And that's the way these things always start off, a successful partnership. RingCentral did the UCaaS and added video, and Zoom was doing just the video, and it worked out pretty well. And what happens in our industry on a fairly regular basis is scope creep. Zoom has expanded into UCaaS with Zoom Phone, and RingCentral's expanded into video with RCV. And so that creates the conflict. This is like a 7-year-old partnership, I think.
Yeah.
So this one lasted pretty long, actually. But this is pretty consistent. I remember when Mitel was pretty excited about partnering with Microsoft and teaching them how to do UCaaS. I mean, it's just inevitably that when you create these partnerships, these companies evolve into each other's spaces. And so no big surprise there either.
Yeah, this is one where, so if you don't understand the base of the lawsuit, what Zoom is claiming is Ring's pulling a bait and switch, where they'll go in and they'll advertise in the sales process that they work with Zoom, have the Zoom logo on the screen, and then sell their own. I don't honestly believe that there was some secret, plan at the top that came down from Vlad that said you will bait and switch your customers. No, I have talked to some resellers that said they heard of a guy who knew a guy that did that, and so there may be some bad behavior down in the field, and I'd probably expect that because sales guys want to short circuit the sales process, right? And so if provides the easiest path to sale, then maybe they are doing that. But I don't think there's any kind of corporate initiative to doing that. This is something I didn't think it would result in a lawsuit, but you could see the collision course between these two companies coming. A year ago, I remember when we were sitting at the analyst event when Zoom first launched Phone at Ring's analyst event, and we asked Vlad, what do you think the impact of Zoom Phone is going to be in your business, on the partnership? And he said, nope, we're great partners, going to continue to be good partners. But then you ask Eric, and he goes, no, we really wanted the phone business. And so I didn't think it would come to a lawsuit, but both companies are certainly looking for a leg up. Ring wants into the meeting space, Zoom wants into phones. How could, some bad blood animosity not come between these two companies? Now, unfortunately, they are tied still to the hip. There's a lot of Ring customers that still use Zoom video. So somehow this will get resolved. I don't know how much teeth, we don't know how much teeth there is to it because we don't, really know the extent of how this has been going on. So I'm not.
Well, like I said earlier, it's going to be boiled down to what's in the contract. And the problem is, honestly, when that contract was written about 8 years ago, this is completely unforeseeable. I mean, the idea that Zoom would be in UCaaS and that Ring would be in video, and so who knows what this contract says? They released some sort of I didn't even look at it, some sort of highly redacted version. But bottom line is, even if I could look at it, I don't have a legal background to ascertain this stuff. But this is going to be something that is going to be complicated to figure out. And I think a lawsuit was probably the only way to do it. But
there's a lot of other partnerships. You think that the contact center vendors partner with the UCaaS vendors, Slack partners with some of the UCaaS vendors. We're going to see more of it. There is a drive.
Particularly in the contact center space, and because all the contact center guys are tightly integrated with CRM, and that's those two spaces are overlapping more.
But as you pointed out in that tweet of yours, all these things are coming together. So it's who knows, we may see some more down the road.
Well, that wraps up this week's Real Time Recorded. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week, possibly with week 12, or maybe we'll take a week off. We'll see.
Probably not.